The NBA's trade deadline doesn't come until February, but what if it was to happen a week from now? Imagine a world where all trading had to be done before the season began, and once the regular season got underway, these groups had to roll with what they've got. They'd probably be acting with a little more urgency around this time, instead of letting sagas play out longer than they need to, right? Now, of course, this idea is not reality, but Bleacher Report just published an article where they proposed one trade for every single NBA team that they believe would happen right now if this hypothetical world where the NBA trade deadline was before the season was reality. And as always, we'll be going through the 4 most interesting proposals that they threw out there, and we'll be analyzing whether or not these trades make sense, why or why not the teams involved would want to go through with it, and who would benefit the most from them if they were to happen. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first proposal from the article we'll be going over is between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Utah Jazz, where the Lakers receive Lauri Markkanen in exchange for Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, Maxi Kleber, Dalton Knecht, 2 first-round picks, and a pick swap. The Lakers are currently in a phase of retooling, not to be mistaken for rebuilding, around Luka Doncic now that they have him to establish as the pillar of their next decade. As things currently stand, they have a roster that can obviously compete and hang around with the best teams in the Western Conference after they finished as the 3 seed last season, but after also being eliminated in the first round of the playoffs handily last year, they got the wake-up call letting them know that they are still a ways away from re-entering title contention. This is very likely the last season that they'll have LeBron James, who seems most likely to either retire or play elsewhere after this season, so finding Luka a co-star for the long haul is probably a good starting point, which this trade does, but the deal is ridiculously imbalanced to the point where I can't even fathom how anybody came up with this overpay. Lauri Markkanen at full strength at his peak play has proven to be an all-star once, though. Since his 2023 All-Star nomination, his scoring output has gotten less and less each of the last 2 seasons, and Lauri is coming off of the worst year that he's had in Utah, where he put up just 19 points per game, shooting 42% from the field and 34% from 3. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say that Austin Reeves alone was genuinely a better player than Markkanen was last season, and while Markkanen is of course an objectively better player at full strength and carries more value because of his unique shot creation ability as a 7-footer, it's not by all that much. The idea that the Lakers would have to package all of that along with Austin Reeves in order to acquire him would be a fleece of all fleeces in favor of Utah, and if that's really the asking price for Markkanen, then the Lakers are better off staying put. I feel like Reeves has become incredibly underrated at this point after he just put up an efficient 20 points and 6 assists per game last season and solidified himself as one of the NBA's best third options. So giving that up along with the steady 2-way play of Rui Hachimura and all of the draft capital for a marginal improvement that doesn't even address the team's weaknesses is not something that I foresee would go down. The next proposal from the article we'll be taking a look at is between the New York Knicks and the Milwaukee Bucks, where the Knicks receive Giannis Antetokounmpo in exchange for Karl Anthony Towns, Pacome Dadier, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 7 second-round picks. Here we go, something like this was bound to pop up after what just happened this week. So in case you missed it, reports have been leaking lately that Giannis Antetokounmpo, while still committed to Milwaukee for now, has expressed an openness to playing in New York if he were to end up being traded. Then in a recent interview, Giannis himself said that he is committed to leading the Bucks team for now, but he said he could also see himself changing changing his mind down the line if things don't go according to plan, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to interpret that to mean that unless the Bucks get back into contention this year, Giannis is probably going to request a trade by the trade deadline. If the trade deadline were a week from now, like in the hypothetical of this article insinuating, the Bucks would probably read between the lines and speed this trade process up, and obviously the Knicks would come calling trying to grant Giannis his wish of playing in the Big Apple. Karl Anthony Towns has been a gift to New York since his arrival, as he helped unlock this group on the offensive end while playing some of the best basketball of his own career last season along the way, but his defensive struggles still remain glaring, and I don't think the Knicks would think twice about offering him up for a two-time league MVP that would come in and not only provide an upgrade over Towns as a scorer, but also help shore up the team's interior defense as a former Defensive Player of the Year winner. The problem, though, is that while everything about this works out in New York's favor, I only see something like this happening if Giannis were to truly try to force himself to the Knicks without any willingness to play elsewhere. This just isn't that remarkable of a trade offer, and I'm confident that there are quite a few other teams out there that have the assets to beat this offer. While Towns may be the best player that the Bucks could get back, it doesn't make sense to target him as the key return in a Giannis trade after they just signed another center in Miles Turner in free agency. The pick swaps are nice, but the fact that there are 0 first-round picks included on their own in general in a trade offer for a league MVP in an era where borderline all-stars like Mikal Bridges and Desmond Bane are getting traded for 4 and 5 first-round picks is also pretty underwhelming. The Knicks will remain in the mix because of the fact that they are his preferred destination, but if the Bucks were smart, they would hear out some offers from teams like the Hawks, Spurs, and Thunder first. The next proposal from the article is between the Atlanta Hawks and the Orlando Magic, where the Magic receive Trae Young in exchange for Jalen Suggs, Jonathan Isaac, a first-round pick, and 2 first-round pick swaps. Any of you who are consistent viewers of the channel know that I have been begging Orlando to address their gaping hole at the point guard position for a long time now, and once upon a time, Trae Young did seem like the perfect target to try to acquire. The Hawks had been regressing for 3 years in a row, the team started to offload players around him, and a rebuild wasn't fully out of the question not that long ago for them, which would have been the perfect time to try to swoop in with a tempting offer for Trae. But I'm afraid that ship has now sailed. The Hawks just had one of the strongest off seasons in the entire NBA, and quite frankly, I don't think it's crazy to say that they have a chance of surpassing Orlando in the Eastern Conference standings. The idea of them going through all of that effort to build a competitive team around Trae Young, only to then trade Trae to one of their biggest in-conference competitors, is just not feasible anymore. In general, I agree with the premise of Orlando in this hypothetical world hurrying to try to find a creative playmaking point guard to level up their historically struggling offense, but Trae is no longer on the table for the time being. Plus, even if Atlanta hadn't just had the summer that they did, this offer isn't even enough to sway anybody. Jalen Suggs is a massive downgrade from Trae Young in the backcourt. Jonathan Isaac is admittedly an elite defensive talent, but he's only ever been able to hold up in a limited capacity off the bench, with some injuries holding him back year after year, and 1 first-round pick does not meet market value for an all-star talent in the year 2025. And finally, the last trade we'll be taking a look at from the article is between the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks, where the Hawks receive Giannis Antetokounmpo in exchange for Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Zachary Reese-Sachet, Asa Newell, and 2 first-round picks. As I said earlier, now that it's known that the door to a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade has been left slightly ajar, the floodgates are about to open up in a matter of time, and while Giannis may apparently prefer New York, there are definitely other teams willing to throw their hat in the ring. With the way that the Hawks have been moving this offseason, they're clearly willing to get aggressive as necessary to try to get themselves out of that realm of mediocrity that they found themselves in, and pairing Trae Young with an MVP-winning all-time talent is the swing of all swings to take. Yes, at first glance, this is a lot to give up, even for Giannis. Zachary Rissache started to get hot in the second half of his rookie season, and at minimum, looks like a high-level 3-and-D wing in the making. Jalen Johnson is a borderline all-star caliber, jack-of-all-trades type of talent that can play in a point-forward type of role. Onyeka Okongwu has been a really good rim protector coming off of a career year last season where he put up 13 points and 9 rebounds per game, and Asa Newell was just drafted in the first round, coming in with a high motor and a lot of upside to look forward to developing. If I'm being honest though, while this may feel like the team would be gutting their roster, I still believe this would be worth it. A core of Trae Young, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kristaps Porzingis, and Dyson Daniels would not only have the elite defense and ridiculous length to make up for Trae Young's shortcomings on that end, but then to add to it, they now have sharpshooters like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard, and Vit Krejci to round out the rotation with, which is a pretty well-balanced 8-man rotation. This package also blows away what other competitors could offer to Milwaukee and poses as the perfect return to start a rebuild with, as Jalen Johnson is still just 23 years old, Zachary Rissache is 20 years old, Asa Newell is 20 years old, and Onyeka Okongwu is 24 years old, plus 2 additional first-round picks to add to that stacked package. It's a rarity in these articles, but this is a trade that I actually like for both teams involved, and if the trade deadline was coming up soon, these teams would definitely be on the phone working out a transaction similar to this one at the minimum. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about these proposed trades. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.